Welcome to LAVCA 5th grade ELA Read Alouds for Study Island. Today's lesson is Structures of Text. Please open your Study Island lesson and be ready to listen and follow along. Then you'll be ready to open this topic and complete 10 practice questions. There are many different ways a writer can tell a story. These different kinds of writing are called genres. When you read a piece of writing, look for clues that tell you what kind of writing it is. You can now pause this recording to click here to play the movie. Fictional stories are made up by a writer. These stories are usually written in sentences and paragraphs. Since they are made up by the writer, many fiction stories have events or characters that could not happen in real life. For example, a talking dog would be a good clue that the story you are reading is fictional. There are many different kinds of fiction stories. Fables, fairy tales, tall tales, and folk tales are some example of fiction stories. Poems and dramas are kinds of writing that can be either fiction or non-fiction. Here are some examples. A myth is a story people made up to explain a belief or something in nature. For example, a myth might try to explain why the sky is blue through an interesting story. A novel is a fictional story written in prose or writing that is of considerable length. Its great length allows it to have multiple characters, plot lines, and shifts in points of view. A novel is often broken up by chapters, which is why it is also known as a chapter book. One type of novel is a young adult novel, which is aimed at people between the age of 13 and 18. A short story is written in sentences and paragraphs. It usually has fewer than 10,000 words. Its short length allows it to be read in one sitting. Historical fiction is a fictional story that is based on a time event or series of events that have taken place in history. The players or characters in the story are either entirely fictional or they are based on a real person or persons in history. The novel Johnny Tremain is an example of historical fiction because it is about a young boy who gets caught up in the American Revolution. A mystery suspense story puts the character in charge of solving a crime or figuring out what is going on. The old Sherlock Holmes series is an example of mystery or suspense. Science fiction is a story about the future based on guesses of how the author thinks the future will be. Most science fiction stories focus on themes like outer space, technology, and time travel. Fables are short moral stories that try to teach a lesson. Fables often have animals as characters. Here's an example of a fable. The king was always mean to the dragon. One day the king got lost. The dragon helped him get home. The king learned not to be mean to others. Folk tales are stories that use made-up events to explain why or how something happened. These stories are usually handed down from earlier times and they cannot be proved true or untrue. Sometimes a folk tale is also called a legend. For example, the horse did not always have a long nose. One day a horse sneezed so hard his nose grew very long. Ever since that day, horses have very long noses. Legends are semi-true stories that have been passed on from person to person and have important meaning or symbolism for the culture in which they originate. A legend usually includes an element of truth or is based on historic facts, but with mythical qualities. Legends usually involve heroic characters or fantastic places and often encompass the spiritual beliefs of the culture in which they originate. For example, Atlantis is a lost continent. It sank beneath the Atlantic Ocean thousands of years ago. Atlantis is full of treasures and riches. Poetry looks different than other kinds of writing. Poetry is often written in short lines. The lines in a poem often rhyme. Sometimes every line begins with a capital letter. For example, Teddy Bear by J. Robbins. I have a teddy bear named Pooh. We stick together just like glue. I play with Pooh Bear in the park. He helps me sleep when it is dark. Dramas are written for people to act out. Plays and skits are two examples of dramas. Dramas look different from other kinds of writing. The characters' names are written out and the words they speak are written beside them. Dramas also have special instructions that tell you what the stage looks like and how the characters should look or act. For example, Bob says, "What is that scary noise in the closet?" Both boys listen quietly. There are the directions. Mark says in a whispering voice, "I don't know." Bob says, "Let's go find out." Nonfiction is a kind of writing that gives facts and true information. Nonfiction tells you about something that really happened. Biographies are examples of nonfiction writing. An autobiography is a piece of writing that a person writes about his or her own life. Autobiographies are written using words like I, me, us, and we. If you wrote a story about your own life, you would be writing an autobiography. A biography is a piece of writing about a real person's life. A biography is written by someone other than the person whose life is being described. If you were to write a book about the life of Abraham Lincoln, you would be writing a biography. An essay is a short piece of informational writing on a single subject. It usually presents a personal view of the author. Essays can be personal or persuasive.